apologize, but I just want to make it clear that, I think instead of just we should really look at this, I think in order for me to be okay with this, I want to make sure that we do, and I want to make sure that we do midway through so we can catch anything before it's too late in the season. And then let's, after September, so I'd say October, let's really sit down and have a meeting about it with the DBA or whomever,
Okay. Councilmember Liefeld?
I would echo Councilmember Lund's points here, and that is something certainly that we would put together, talk to the businesses. They've been very honest with us and, giving us their ideas and their input, and, we don't know what's going to happen, and the comment about the floodgates are going to open, we really have no idea what's going to happen here, and I just hope we continue to see the same kind of problem I've had the last 2 weekends here in Hastings, where I couldn't find a parking spot downtown to go out for the evening. It was the greatest experience. I was seeing people in every establishment. Everybody was busy, and it was just a really great experience that I had to walk. I had to walk to something in Hastings, and I absolutely loved it. So hopefully this is something that we find develops into a good, healthy problem, down the road. And we do have to make a decision because we do have people clamoring to come into town, and we do know that food trucks bring a clientele with them as well. People follow food trucks. They experience your community. They're standing in line for a burrito, and they realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a little hamburger joint across the street. So I think we definitely need to keep our thumb on this and see what's going to happen through the summer. Keep in contact with all the great business owners downtown who are helping us out with this. But I would really be hesitant to put a number on it right now, and especially since we've got that caveat of 2nd Street. In order for them to park on 2nd Street, that will require permission from council. So that kind of pulls it away from 2nd Street. So all excellent points, and this is certainly not a one-and-done sort of ordinance that we're looking at by any means. So,
Councilmember Brox?
Just so I understand, I want to understand as the Public Safety Committee Chair what we would be evaluating. So maybe Councilmember Lund could maybe advise me on what kind of data points we'd be looking at to evaluate, just so I'm happy to evaluate mid-season, but my thought is at the end of the summer or the fall would be the best time to review because we'll have a certain amount of data collected at that point, and then we can say whether it's successful or not. My concern is if we schedule a midsummer meeting, and this is getting really detailed, but if we schedule a midsummer meeting that we have a bunch of people complaining about the situation instead of trying to solve a problem. So I would just like to create a situation where we're working collaboratively and we're working with information and data and not just a complaining session. So do you have some suggestions on what that would look like and what kind of data points we would evaluate?
Councilmember Lund?
Thank you. Well, thanks for putting me on the spot. Appreciate it. I mean, in short, I don't know exactly what the data points would be, but I don't know what different the July, call it, meeting would be than October in that regard. There's going to be qualitative feedback that you're going to be receiving. The formality of it may be different, the structure of it may be different. Maybe it's a staff feedback type of situation, and it's not a full subcommittee meeting, and it's just something that's provided to council, and then we can, if we feel like there's something at that point, to do action at that time, because I do understand what you're saying. We can establish that meeting, and then it becomes constructive. But so that's what I would say. I don't know if you can avoid the complaining aspect of it in October. I think people have opinions and they'll bring them if there's complaints. So I hope that answers your question.
Kind of.
Okay.
Councilmember Balsanic?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I spoke with 2 business owners downtown. I'm not sure if they're members of the DBA. I love all of the downtown businesses, and I love the DBA. But sometimes it's like trying to herd cats. They're just, everybody's going off in a different direction. And concern that I got from these two business owners was that they wanted to know where are these mobile units going to park? Can they just, if they have their permit, if they have a season permit, can they just go down and say, well, I think I'm gonna park here today? The business owners did not want a food truck, you know, parked right in front of their store. So I'd like to know how we can clarify that. I know, okay, I know with the Second Street aspect, they're coming to us, right? And I guess at that point, what we would decide, we would say, well, you can have these two parking places here, but if we're going to offend a shop owner, I don't know, how are we gonna herd the cats here on this? Is there anything in here that approaches that kind of jurisdiction on our part?
Aside from Second Street and from the levy parking lot up to Third Street on Sibley Street, there's nothing that would prohibit them. They have an annual license. From going, say, you know, farther up on Sibley Street, there's nothing currently that would prohibit that.
Okay, you know, referencing Councilmember Lund in terms of let's take a look at this in a little while, you know, perhaps halfway through the summer. I can see that this is gonna be a major issue. If somebody parks that truck in front, they're gonna take up two spaces. So I'm assuming they'll park right down the white line in between two parking spaces, and that can irritate a shop owner if it's if it's one of the two shop owners that I talked about, who are not in the business of bar and grill or restaurant. So I anticipate that there's going to be some discussion about that when the time comes. And then, Councilmember Lund, you were kind of thinking off the top of your head. Just a suggestion that you might, between now and whenever, put some things down, pass them on to Councilmember Brox. I know you had some good suggestions here tonight, but there may be a couple of more. And I might have a couple of more for that matter too, or any other council member. It's going to get more active down there with our pavilion events going on, with the whole downtown area becoming more and more popular. You know, the wonderful car shows are certainly another issue which we really don't have to worry about with this ordinance, right? We don't have to. So that's good. But you know, a store wants to have a special sale, a grand opening. They want to, you know, get these MFUs. Is that what we're calling them? Yeah. MFUs. You know, down there and recruiting them. We want to make sure that we're fair to other shop owners. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Councilmember Fulch.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, I'd just like to remind the council that the Downtown Business Association, particularly the restaurants that are down there, they've suffered a great deal during the construction of the bridge, where they've had to sustain for several years while the construction has been going on. And so they're excited that construction is over, and I would not want to wait until October to make the opportunity available to them to be able to voice any concerns that they may have. And so I would prefer, I mean, I'm happy to go to the DBA meetings. They happen every month, and I go every once in a while myself just to stay in tune with the downtown, because it's within Ward 1, which I represent. I think that we should, keep a pulse on it because I guarantee you they're going to be extremely disappointed in our performance if we wait until October to listen to their concerns if there is something of concern. And I agree, I don't see that we're going to have, 10 food trucks lining up, but who knows, maybe 3 or 4 food trucks in the downtown area over the summer on the weekends when it's beautiful out, that might be enough to, severely impact their income. And so I think that we have to be, nimble. And if they're seeing, big declines as a result of this, I think that we have to be more responsive to their concerns. And so with that, I withdraw my request to, include another provision, to limit the number of mobile food trucks that we have downtown. But I just would urge the group to being, responsive to concerns as they come up from the owners, because I know I'm not going to be the only one that's going to hear from them if something goes wrong.
Well, let's, as we move forward here, let us just have a good understanding right here that at midsummer, let's have a review and see where we're at sometime after the end of July and see if it is an issue up to that point.
Right.
I might remind folks, if there are concerns from the DBA or people from the downtown also came forward with this request that they wanted food trucks.
Right.
So we're sitting here pulling against each other, for something that they want. We're here discussing an ordinance that they pushed for, and now we're saying, well, wait a minute, maybe they don't want it. So I think we ought to just say, hey, let's just commit ourselves that in midsummer we'll have a review, see how things are going. It may not be an issue, and just move forward and keep track of it. And
Sounds good.
Go from there. Councilmember Brox.
So just to summarize some of the concerns I heard so that I can note kind of what we'd be evaluating, and especially for Melanie so she can track. I heard we want to keep track of the number of units on certain days, the staff feedback with the process of administratively granting mobile food unit licenses, the traffic and public safety, parking in front of other businesses, and the business owner's feedback is what I wrote down. So I think those are the data points that I would suggest we evaluate against.
And we're going to have the opportunity to monitor it too, because we have to approve it if it's going to be in the 2nd Street and 3rd Street area on Sibley, right? So we're going to know, because we're going to have to approve those. So, Councilmember Lund?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, you're correct. We'll hear it at the time of that meeting if there's a problem too. So it goes beyond just these few blocks too. So we need to remember that too. I think the focus has been primarily on how that impacts those those businesses. But one thing I need clarity on is for the annual license. There's no need for a heads up to operate during any given day. Is that correct? Or there is?
Melanie? Or Julie?
Okay. So that's where the hard to police comment comes in. So I guess it's, again, see if it's a problem kind of thing, but I just don't know if, we can't just focus around downtown, but if somewhere, on the west side of town, and all of a sudden there's 5 food trucks in a day, doesn't sound like a lot across the whole town, but it does when they're all in the one spot, So just consider that too. As we look at it, let's not just look at downtown. Because we may have to consider not just a limit of how many, but maybe it's a limit of how many in a given area instead of a limit how many in the whole city. I don't know. Food.
Okay, Council, I think we're becoming fully informed. Councilmember Balsanic?
Well, yes, thank you, Your Honor. Just, you had mentioned, that the DBA is the group that brought this to us. But, working down there, it's a 3-headed.
Like herding cats?
You have the DBA. You have business owners who are not members of the DBA, and we have property owners. And boy, day of the week, time of the day, you're going to get a different opinion from any 3 of those you know, heads that are out there. So when we review, I don't know, perhaps it would be good to, you know, to invite not just the DBA, but all three, to get some feedback from them. Thank you.
Okay, council. I'll have someone seek a motion. Councilmember Fultz makes a motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Balsanic. Is there any further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay. Next, we have a public hearing in regards to the ordinance changes to sidewalk cafes. Julie?
All right, so council, tonight we're asking to hold another public hearing. This one is to consider ordinance amendments related to sidewalk cafes. In June of 2015, we amended several ordinances to allow for sidewalk cafes to operate in public right-of-way. The ordinance as is written only allows for sidewalk cafe licenses to be issued in conjunction with restaurants that offer a food menu. Spiral Brewing has applied for a sidewalk cafe license, and they don't serve food, but they plan to bring food in from other restaurants. So this ordinance change just clarifies that language so that they satisfy the ordinance. All other provisions of the ordinance would stay the same.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to that issue? The ordinance changes as described by Julie on sidewalk cafes. Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, this issue is before us. What's your wish? Councilmember Liefeld? Councilmember Liefeld makes a motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Brox. That motion is now before the body. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we have before the City Council the proclamation that was read with the Hastings Public Schools at the April 29th meeting in terms of cultural equity and inclusiveness discussion that we had for a community discussion. And the school board had passed the resolution 7-0. Tonight, we didn't have the opportunity because of timing to have this proclamation before us. Prior to that time, it was still being drafted when we had our last council meeting, so that's why it's here tonight. So we're at number 3 in proclamation. Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Liefeld? Councilmember Liefeld makes a motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Fulch. This issue is not up for public hearing, but I am going to allow testimony if anyone would like to speak to this issue. So I'll allow any public testimony if there's anyone who want to speak to the issue. Pastor, if you like. Welcome to the meeting, Pastor Pash. We're very glad to have you here.
Respected council members. I've been a pastor in Hastings for 36 years. Paris Pash is my name. And I have the privilege of leading a body of people to be welcoming. I find that to be one of the important calls of my assignment. What I have maybe is just a comment. I have felt in an effort to be included, I have felt like I've been a little bit excluded in the discussion and the development of this proclamation. Now, I'm not part of the school, I'm part of the city, but I would really like to have been part of the discussion to talk about the language that was used in this proclamation, some of which could make it be misconstrued that I am being unwelcoming on any given Sunday as I communicate to the congregation of our leading. I'm also very interested in the safety and welfare of our children. And so we've worked, I'm president of the Hastings Ministerial Association,
Thank you, Pastor, for your testimony. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a motion before the body. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Vaughn.
Thank you. I just wanted the one note that I think that we need to do. I'm more interested in bringing this to a workshop with this body in the near future. How are we going to implement it? When are we going to use it? I don't think we had that discussion yet. I'm not opposed to the language. I just think we need to make sure this gets in front of us to determine how we're going to implement it. I want to use that word, implement, the right way, so we are using it in the right way. So if we could just put that on our radar, I would appreciate it.
Well, I think that's a good idea, and I'll tell you why, because it continues. What we want to do is to be able to make sure that we are able to monitor to a degree that the practices that are set out in the resolution are followed in our practice. And so one of the ways to do that is to be able to do, as you said, Councilmember, follow up with, as the months and the years ahead of us, are we being inclusive? Be able to have some, be self-reflective. I appreciate the comments by Pastor Pash. I know I've received a couple of letters from the Ministerial Association. I respect that organization. And I can assure you, Pastor, that though it may not be specifically within the confines of the resolution where the churches, certainly as I indicated at the National Day of Prayer, that the social fabric of this community certainly involves our faith community. And if it doesn't say it quite, maybe it should have, but it's certainly implied. And as all in our community who may have opinions on this issue or may want to speak to it, it includes everyone, especially our churches. And I would expect that to be true as we go forward. This resolution to me also is a little bit broad, and I take it as being broad. I was at, unfortunately, my mother has been at Regents Hospital. She's doing good today. But I was at Regents Hospital just this morning, and I was going up the elevator, and they have a placard, and each of their elevators says, "We honor diversity." And then underneath that had 3 bullet points, and it said, "We welcome all people. We think all people matter, and that all people are valued." And that's where my perspective is on this resolution, that we follow those 3 guidelines. And I speak to it from that broad perspective. And if we follow that as a community, then I think that we all benefit. Councilmember Lightfeld.
Thank you, Your Honor. To Pastor Parrish's point, when this started a couple years ago, this was an open call to the community. Everyone was invited to come and sit in these meetings. There's no way for us to get a hold of everybody, so we kind of did word of mouth. We went on Facebook. I told 10 friends. They told 10 friends. And that was the message and the way in which it started out. So then, as a group, looking at it and saying, how do we do more, and how do we get, because you didn't know about it, how do we notify all these people? So that's where it came to the city, as far as I'm concerned, to say, okay, as a elected group of officials, school board elected group of officials, how can we say as a community, we are going to do these things? You elected us to speak for you, and not just for you, but for every person in this community and every person who wants to be part of this community. So for me, it was us starting to be able to say we want to be able to serve and represent all the unempowered people that don't necessarily have a voice on the council. We're not a very diverse council. This will hopefully look different someday for all of us. I think I added diversity to the council by being the first openly gay council member within the city, as far as I understand. But for me, I don't want anyone to feel excluded. I don't want anyone to feel as though we weren't asking for your help. But who do we ask? How do we ask? There isn't, we have a siren system. It notifies you when a tornado's coming. Are we supposed to set off the siren system that says, hey, everyone, we've got something going on in our community, and we want you there? Because we do. We want people to be active. We want people to come and join us and give us their input. And I really am saddened to think that you felt excluded, because we certainly weren't doing that. We needed to start somewhere. So now you're all included. Let's take this as a community. Let's, wrap it up and let's just live it. And we need everybody to do that, not just the council, not just the school board, not just the city staff. We need the churches, we need the schools, we need everybody. So I just really think that this is just the beginning. Mark, Councilmember Vaughn, your point is spot on. How do we continue this? But to me, it's just like, it's the baseline, it's the barometer. We're saying, we're going to do this. And if you catch us not doing this, you need to call us out on this. If you catch us not being inclusive and you catch us not speaking for everybody, then we're not doing something right. So I'm so excited that this has happened, having been, a member of the Hastings community my entire life. This just speaks to me as where we're going in our future and what we're going to become as a community. So don't feel excluded. Come join us. Let's be part of this. Thanks, Pastor.
Councilmember Brox.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to echo Pastor Paris's sentiments in that I felt I didn't really know about it in advance of needing to read it in a public setting, and therefore I abstained from reading it in a public setting because I had no idea what the implications were going to be, if this was a priority for the council, if so, what were the items that are supposed to come out of it, what the financial picture is supposed to be, whether we have allocated money towards this effort. So I guess I had some process concerns, and we do have a list of council priorities that we set about a year and a half ago. And at the time, this wasn't on it. So I just feel that if this is going to be a priority of the council, that we need to allocate some time, just like Councilmember Vaughn said, to sit down and talk about it. What does it look like? What are the financial implications? What are we going to do so that I can understand whether or not I can support it?
Is there, we have a motion before the body. Councilmember Liefeld?
I would like to just add that if you go back and look over the last year and a half that I've been sitting in this spot, every time there was a meeting, I announced that there would be this meeting. My council members knew we were gathering. The community that was watching knew we were gathering. So I just wanted understood that I did sit here for the last 15 months and mention to everybody, come join us, and who attended.
Okay, we have a motion before the body. Is there any further discussion to the motion? Councilmember Fulch?
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilmember Siebeneller Liefeld, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all of your efforts. And I very greatly appreciate all the work that you've put into it and other members that came from the school board and the community. I was ecstatic. I've lived here all my life as well. And my father's Puerto Rican. And so I know what it means to grow up in a mixed household here in this community and how when I was young, it wasn't so welcoming all the time. And things have really changed. And so I'm ecstatic about the direction our city is going in. And so I applaud you and the others who are committed to just, getting this off the ground. So thanks.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. We'll go to comments from the audience. Is there any comments from the audience this evening? Any comments from the audience? Okay. If you want to talk to us, this is the time. Okay. Okay. If not, okay, council, announcements? Announcements. Okay, see, Councilmember Balsanic?
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I have a Board of Directors meeting of the Dakota Communications Center next, Thursday the 17th, 8 a.m. Looking forward to it. Good organization.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? If not, I have several announcements. On Tuesday, May 8th, tomorrow at 6 p.m., the Parks and Recreation Commission will be meeting here, I believe at City Hall. Yes. Here at City Hall, tomorrow at 6 p.m., Parks and Rec Commission. On Thursday, May 10th at 6:30, HEDRA will be meeting here at Hastings City Hall. Monday, May 14th, At 5:30, the Finance Committee will be meeting chaired by Councilmember Vaughn, along with Councilmembers Balsanic and Brox. The topic will be preliminary budget, the base operating budget, market value, levy options, general direction, review of debt study, and purchasing policy. So, Finance Committee, well, that's a mouthful there. Finance Committee, Councilmember Vaughn, Chair Vaughn will be leading that discussion. So, council members, if you're interested in attending that who are not on the committee, feel free to do that. Week from tonight at 5:30, City Hall. 5:30 at City Hall. Yep. At 7 p.m. later that evening, the Planning Commission will be meeting at 7 p.m. here at City Hall. Tuesday, May 15th. Now, if you like hot dogs and popcorn like me, you'll want to go to the Police Week open house. So here, we'll close 3rd Street here on 70th Street, from 3rd to 4th. We'll have our open house for the police department. People come and enjoy the festivities. There'll be a program at 5:30 honoring Police Week and those who have fallen in the line of duty here in Dakota County and in our state. So that'll start at 4:30 next Tuesday, May 15th. At 7 p.m., the Heritage Preservation Commission will be meeting here at City Hall. On Wednesday, May 16th at 7 p.m., there'll be an open house for our draft 2040 comprehensive plan. So, Mary, I see Mary's here. You're going to be at that meeting, right, Mary? She's nodding. Okay, good. The open house on draft 2040 comprehensive plan, that'll be taking place here at City Hall, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. On Monday, May 21st, that will be our next regularly scheduled city council meeting at 7. Prior to that meeting at 5:30, council, we're going to have a city council workshop in regards to our strategic plan review. So we'll be taking a look at some of our strategic planning at 5:30. That concludes our business for this evening. No other items before our agenda. A motion to adjourn is in order. Councilmember Balsanic makes that motion to adjourn, seconded by Councilmember Vaughn. That is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails, and we are adjourned. Thank you.